What's going on, everybody? JR from JR's Cars, and in this video we're going to be getting more work done on the 69 Mercury. As you saw in the last video, the two front brakes are still locked up, so I need to figure out what's going on and make it a little bit easier to get it around the yard, feel a little bit better about it too, and get it just that much closer to getting on the road. So like I said, in this video we're going to be looking into that, finding out what the problem is, and who knows, maybe we might even have enough time to get to the interior. So stick around and I'll show you how we're getting things done with this today. All right, now that this side is up in the air, you can see the rim is really rusty on this one side here. And on the other side, it doesn't look that bad. So it's kind of weird how this side was rusty in the front, the other side was not. In the rear, the driver's side was rusty and the passenger side wasn't. So there's really no rhyme or reason. But being that it's up in the air, this brake is locked up. This wheel's not moving. This is one of the ones that are dragging. So I'm going to remove this tire. It's also been going flat too. So I'll probably take the good one from the back after I clean up the rim and do my spray job on that and put the other tire on it just for now so I have something to roll around with. But this is definitely a problem. Let's get this rim off. And let's see. Yeah, just like the other side, she's locked up solid. All right, so I'm going to pull that one off too. And see, look, the Will Pop 4000. It's a great tire if your life insurance is paid up. Okay, so just like the other side, we're seeing pretty much the same thing, looks the same. Oh yeah, that hose has definitely seen better days. All right, so basically what I'm going to do is just hit all this crap with some P-Blaster, and we'll see if we can get these calipers off. Then I'll take the hose off the caliper. I'll see what that looks like. And then we'll take it from there. So my bet is it's these hoses that are the root cause of the problem, but these calipers could be frozen up too. All right, so I'm gonna let this soak down some, but take a look at that rotor. You can see in here that it's all caked in between each one of the vanes there. So this thing had to have been sitting in some mud. I'm wondering if that's why it's all locked up at this point, instead it's just not moving around at all. All right, so I'm hoping that you could see that there. This is the back side of the caliper. You got your caliper holds here, which actually look like they're in good shape. And maybe somebody was starting to do some work and they just got rid of it and fed up with it. But that's the brake hose there that I'm going to have to replace. So we'll let all this stuff sit. I'll break this stuff free. I'll pull these calipers off, and then we'll see at least if the calipers are free up. That'll give me a better idea as to what's going on here, getting these calipers off. Okay, so I took these two bolts out on the top there, which should release the caliper here. That's what they look like. Basically, they just have threads here, and then it's the slide pin that's on the end here, which, of course, I'll end up, when I put this all back together, cleaning them up, greasing them, and everything else. But let's see what we can do with this caliper. moving a little bit there. Let's see what a pry bar will get. Or a long screwdriver. Okay, it's locked up there. Oh, there it goes. It's moving little by little. She wants to be like that. There we go. There we go. All right. Now the caliper is off. So that's good. So I don't know if you saw this before, but I figured I wanted to take the caliper off to get this nut out because there was very little space between the caliper and the lower ball joint. So I couldn't get a ratchet in there. And honestly, I really don't want to hit this with a wrench because that's just asking for trouble and that could strip this right out. So now that I have this off, I'm going to try to take this hose off and we'll see what we got there. And then maybe what I can do is I'll get a C-clamp on this and see if the caliper will compress. If it does, great, because then I know the caliper should be okay and that we're moving up the line to the hose, which more than likely I'm going to have to replace. But I don't know where I'm going to be able to get this because I have not been able to find a listing for front disc brakes on this car. So I don't know. We'll take a look and we'll see what it is, but hey, at least that's moving now. The hub moves, so I gotta just get that back brake pad out of there, and then we'll keep moving forward. Now I got the caliper off. And I was actually surprised because it came loose pretty easily. I mean, the caliper itself came off pretty easily, right? And it's got fluid in it. So I'm interested in knowing if I hit the brake now, is that going to shoot out some fluid? Because I did see some fluid blow out of the line when I disconnected it. But we'll see. Let's take a look. I'm going to go inside and hit the brake now and see what happens. Oh, nothing. It is still rock hard. Oh, there we go. Now she's moving, but she's not coming back up. Huh. Well, that's interesting. Let's see. Did any fluid come out? Yeah, I got fluid out of there, huh? So is it just because the master was locked up? Huh. The brake pedal is definitely not coming back up, but I can pull it back up with my hand. That's interesting. And it looks like there's fluid coming out of there. Huh. Here, let me show you this here. Let's see. So if I were to come in here and hit the brake pedal goes, it moves down now, but it doesn't come back up. So I have to pull it back up, which I can't do with my foot. I'll have to get in here and pull it back with my hand, and it comes back up. So I'm wondering now if it has nothing to do with the calipers. I mean, the calipers probably need to become, they need to come off and need to be cleaned and everything else. But I want to take a look at this master cylinder and see if maybe it's just rusted, it needs to be cleaned, or the master cylinder is bad. The plunger for the master cylinder as you're pushing it in isn't doing anything. And that's what's causing the lockup in the front. All right, so before I go any farther, I want to see if this caliper is sticking, if it's frozen, or if it's free. So I just put a C-clamp on it. I want to see if there's going to be fluid coming out of the top there. And that is free. Look at that. Fluid's coming right out the top. That caliper is free. So I think my main problem with this right now is all the way up at the master cylinder because, like I said, I'm getting fluid coming out of this line here. I mean, this is fluid that I've pumped out just by, hitting the pedal a couple times. It's really hard to push the pedal, but, and the fluid is really, really nasty. But, I mean, if that's all that is, that might just be an easy fix. Just get a master cylinder. And then, obviously, at some point, I'm going to try to see if I can source these lines. Hopefully, I can get the lines without too much trouble. To replace at least this part, and then eventually down the road I'll replace all the hard lines too to get that all cleared up, just to make sure that there's no possibility of blowing a line out. But the caliper is good. The brake pads were actually not in terrible shape. There's fluid coming out of the line here, which shows that there's no blockage in the line itself. So the only other thing is that master cylinder. All right, so let's see what we have going on here. We have one line coming in the side that's a 7/16, and one line going in the bottom, which is a 16 mil, and 2 bolts that hold it up to the brake booster. But let's see if we can get these lines free. It would be really nice if I don't break these things. That won't work. Oh, that's nice. And it's not. Look at that. And it's actually sliding. Nice. The line itself is not spinning with the end nut. Beautiful. So that should work. Alright, so I'll take that one off. Let's see if we can get lucky with the bottom one too. Okay, it's moving. It's also moving the line. Yeah, it's moving the line too. Might have to get creative with that one. You know what? I'll leave that one for now. I'll pull this one off. And then I'll try to take it off the brake booster. And then I'll see if I can hold it with the wrench. And then spin, once I get the master cylinder off, I'll see if I can spin the master cylinder right off of that nut. And then while that's all off, then I can work that free. So that way I don't break this line and have to replace it right now. Like I said before, eventually I will replace these lines, but I want to see if this is going to work first. So I already have that loose. So what I'm hoping I can do is just hold on to it, pull this master out. As you can see, this back here is the push rod that goes to the brake pedal. Right? We'll get to that in a minute. But let's see if we can spin this. The whole master. Yeah, there we go. Do we have enough room? Yes, we do. Ooh. Well, I would say that's probably our problem. All right, let's spin this guy off. And now I'm throwing wrenches around, but let's spin this guy off, and then we'll get to that push rod because I want to see There we go. There we go. So that's off of the bottom. That's another good, easy way to get the brake lines off. And speaking of brake lines, if you haven't checked it out already, I did a full set of brake lines on a 1994 Jeep Renegade and on a 2004 Yukon. I'll link those down below in the description. So if you want to check those out, you can check them out down in the description below. But anyway, all right, so yeah, take a look at that master cylinder. Wow. Got a screwdriver here so I can see what this gunk looks like. Oh, wow. Yeah, it is completely gunked up down at the bottom here. It's like, I don't even know if I could get that pin out there. So that's interesting. I'm looking at this now, and even though it looks crappy like this, it's really not bad. If I try to hit it, it will collapse and it'll start spraying some fluid out. So I wonder what's going on now. I wonder if it's not the master cylinder. Maybe it's something to do with the brake booster being locked up. Let's see what happens. Oh yeah, look at that. So it's not the master cylinder, it's the brake booster. Huh. That should go in and out very easily. And it is not. So it's not the master cylinder. It is actually the brake booster that's the problem. I want to take this off, but I'm going to have to get that from the inside. So if I take the brake booster off, I'll get a better idea of what it looks like on the other side too. And we can see if there's something that I could do with this, or if it's going to be a replacement. And again, this is another part that I've not been able to find very easily. So this is getting concerning. I'm going to pull the brake pedal back and forth, and I'm going to see what it does. We'll see if it's releasing out here. Now I'm really wondering if it's the brake booster itself, or maybe it's something inside to do with the pedal, that the pedal is getting hung up, which could always be a possibility too, because I think there was water getting in, and it's right in that area where that brake pedal is. So I'm kind of hoping at this point that it's not the brake booster, because we already saw that it's not the master cylinder. We'll see what it is, but I want to take a look and see what happens when I push the push the brake pedal down and then release it to bring it back up, to see what it looks like on this side when I'm doing that. So let's do that now. Okay, so I'm going to review what that looked like. I know what it felt like, and it was definitely getting hung up. It feels like it goes about halfway in and then gets hung up, and then I could push it through the rest of the way, but it doesn't come back. So I'm going to review this. We'll see what it looks like, and then I'll come back. Okay, so as you saw in that video, you could see the center section, the seal up against the shaft that goes through it. You could see that it was pulling away, so I'm really wondering if there's internal damage or if there's something else going on here. So I think what I need to do at this point is just remove the brake booster, take it off from the inside, see how the pedal itself feels without the brake booster in there, and then if I'm lucky enough, I might be able to find this booster somewhere. Hopefully not that expensive, but we'll take a look and we'll see. All right, so after wrestling with those 4 bolts there up by the steering column, I was able to get it out, and that's what I'm left with there. And here's the booster. So the internal shaft here is very, very hard to press through. I had to actually get a socket in here and pound it through just so it would go in. And then you have this here, which is your shaft that goes in this side, which would go into the master cylinder, and then that would seal this up. So flip this over here, take a look, and you can see what it looks like there. So on the back side here, you have your seal to the firewall. These are the bolts that went into the inside of the car, which that one has definitely seen better days there. Your bellow, and then this is what attaches to the brake pedal itself. Again, if I were to try and push this, it doesn't go anywhere. This takes a lot of force of banging on it to get it to go in, and then it just sits in there and sticks. So just for the hell of it, what I'm gonna do is let's see if I can find it here. I've already done this. They have these little indents that are here. You can see that there. And then here are like little splits to where they'll clamp the front half of the shell to the back half of the shell. Let's see if I can get this front cover off and see what it looks like on the inside, because you know what? Why not? Just out of curiosity, I've never actually seen what a brake booster looks like from the inside. Okay, so here's a learning experience. I already knew this, but there is a very heavy spring in here. So if you were to even think about doing anything like this, you should always make sure that this is either clamped down to where you can pry it off, or have it faced away from you, because that spring will definitely take that front plate and fling it away from you. So this is honestly the first time I've opened up a brake booster, so let's take a look and see what we have here. So we have the front cover. That is where your check valve is. That's where the master cylinder would connect to. Right, so this basically is held together with a pinch. It's all these little areas over here that it lays in here, it sits, and then there's the pinches that pinch the front plate to the back plate, and then it seals up with the inner bladder that's in here. So, well, let's look at the inner bladder. This actually, despite looking at the copious amount of oil I put on there, it actually doesn't look like it's in bad shape. The bladder, it does expand and contract, and it does look like it's in good shape. There's no holes or anything in it, so I think I should be able to use this. The problem was this shaft here was getting bound up in the back plate here, and I bet you it's because of all these little rust particles that are all over the place in here. I mean, there's just junk and everything here. And then same thing here, you can see all that crap that's in there too. So what I'm going to do, just for the hell of it, because again, I can't find this brake booster anywhere. I see a marking here. It says Bendix 8023. I don't know, maybe I could find it somewhere, but just to get the car rolling at this point, I'm going to give this all a really good clean. I'm going to clean up the rust. I'm going to clean this all out, clean the channel out, get this all together, clean this up. I'm going to lube this up really well. I'm going to do the same thing with the shaft here, get this nice and clean and lubed up. I'm going to clean this edge here, which really isn't bad. So that way I get a good seal on it. And then what I'll do is I'll get this edge really clean here, and I'll run a bead of gasket maker in there. I'll put this all back together, and then we'll see if the brake booster will actually function properly. I'm not getting my hopes up, but hey, you know what? It's here. Why not? Give it a shot, see what happens. If it gets it to the point to where I can use it, up until the point where I can actually find a good replacement, I'm perfectly fine with that. All right, so here it is all back together again. I got the center shaft all cleaned up, the two halves put back together. I did put a little bit of RTV on both sides of the bladder, just so I can make sure that it seals up. And then in the center here. I don't know if you can really see that, but there's a seal that's there too. I also sealed that to the case because I have a feeling that that was leaking, because when I pulled the vacuum line out of here, I didn't really hear any vacuum. Normally you would hear it, huffing away when you go to pull it out. So I bet I had a leak, a pretty sizable vacuum leak here, because this just popped right out. And, I gave it the old Vice Grip Garage Craigslist rebuild. So now it's all back together. I got everything back here, all back together. This really isn't the best gaskets here, but it'll suffice for now. But it does move without issue. So I'm good with putting this back in, putting the master back on it, and then trying to see if I could bleed the brakes out and see how they work. I'm not looking at it being a permanent thing because, of course, if I'm going to be using this on the road, I want to make sure that I have no issues at all. And you never know. Maybe this will work and suffice and everything will be good. Maybe it won't. You never know until you try. All right, so I'm pretty excited here. We got the refurbished brake booster in. We got the master cylinder back on. The lines are back on. And looking in the master cylinder, honestly, everything in this car looks like it was replaced at some time. I don't know if you could really see that, but if you're looking at the back here, let's see if we can get it to focus. See, if you look in the back on the inside of the master cylinder, it almost looks brand new. The outside obviously doesn't look that way, but the inside looks really clean. You could see that again, like up in here. You can see that it's really clean looking. So my bet, again, kind of looking at the brakes in the back and things like that, is that they were working on this at some point. Whoever the previous owner was working on it, replaced the master, maybe got to the point where they got to the brake booster and realized that the booster itself was just locked up solid and it wasn't moving, and they didn't know what to do. They couldn't find it, and then they just parked the car. I really don't know. But I got this all squared away. The master was a bench bled out again, so that way there was no air in the system before I put it actually on there, and then I got the lines hooked up. And then I came down here and I got the entire caliper. Again, just the line is here just temporarily until I can find a decent replacement. I haven't been able to find one, and it's kind of getting a little concerning, but the hose is allowing fluid to pass through. I had this hooked up here. I hooked up just a catch jar over here, and there was fluid coming out of it. So that was good. I was happy to see that. So I cleaned up pretty much all the mating surfaces here. I was able to compress the caliper with no problem, and I just hit everything. I cleaned mating surfaces up, and I hit it with a little bit of anti-seize just so it doesn't go anywhere. But now I was able to crack the bleeder open, so that's really good too. I was really concerned about that. Gonna get the bleeder open. I'm gonna bleed this side out just to get the air out of this side. And then what I'm gonna have to do is go over to the other side and basically do the same thing as what I did over here. Remove the whole caliper, get everything free, unlocked, make sure that the rubber hose is allowing fluid to pass through. So hopefully that'll be okay. But as you can see, that's moving nice and free now. So I'm hoping I could do the same thing with the passenger side, and we'll get this whole front end unlocked up too. And after getting the brake booster in, now I have a nice pedal that goes down and retracts. So right now there's air in the system, so it's going down, but it goes down and it comes back. It's not sticking anymore. It's not binding up. So I'm really happy about that as well. Okay, now let's see if we can get some fluid out of this thing and crack that bleeder open. Alright, that looks good. We're getting fluid out of it, so I'm happy with that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on the passenger side, try to get that squared away, and then we'll go from there. And the best thing is I just closed up the bleeder on it, and I stepped on the brakes a bunch of time. The pedal still came back up. It went down. It was solid. The pedal came back up, and We are still free in the driver's side front, so I'll take that as a win. Let's get this passenger side done. All right, so here we are. We are down to the rotor, and as you can see, it spins nice and free now. So what I'm going to do is, just like on the other side, I'm going to clean up these mating surfaces because there is some significant rust on these. Just clean them up, make sure that they're in good shape. I'm going to sand them down a little bit. I'll hit those with some anti-seize as well. We'll get this caliper to compress and expand and compress and expand. Make sure that everything is okay with the caliper. Then we'll put everything back on there. We'll bleed this line out. Make sure that this doesn't seize back up. And then that should take care of the brakes, hopefully, in the front here. All right, that right there is a double win. So now we got both fronts squared away. Got a little bit of air coming through. We'll get that squared away. That's not a big deal. I'll close this off. I'll clean this up. I'll close this off, and then we'll hit the brakes a couple times on this side, and we'll see if this caliper still stays free too, just like the other side. All right, so I pressed the pedal a couple times. It's got a nice feel. The pedal's solid. It comes right back up. Has no problems. I can hear the calipers compressing and contracting. This wheel is still free. Nice. All right, so what I'm gonna do, I wanted to do these rims. I wanted to sand them up and clean them up and get them all, nice and neat right now. But now I'm excited. I want to put these tires back on it, and I want to drive this around and see how it feels now. Okay, so as I'm walking back over to the car here, I'll give you a heads up as to what I was seeing. So the brakes themselves, I can feel the front ones releasing, but they're still dragging a little bit. And looking at the calipers, looking at the rotors, seeing how rusted they are too, I mean, that could take a little bit of time to wear off. And look, the car sat for as long as it has. Everything needs to just start getting free again. And even as I was working on it before, you could And even with me working on it before, I mean, I was pressing the brakes and I could hear them catching and releasing for the calipers in the front. So I'm not overly concerned about that. My biggest concern is that the booster still kind of feels like it's not working at all. Like I don't feel any power assist on it. I really have to push on the brake pedal in order to make it work. However, I bled out the front brakes, but I never bled out the back brakes. So I kind of have a feeling that at this point it's all front brakes, and being a rear-wheel drive car, the rear is pushing it, and it just feels like it's not stopping because I only have two wheels that are actually doing the stopping. So what I want to do, I'm going to cut this video off here because it's been probably about 2-3 weeks of just kind of on and off wrenching on the car because of the weather. So we'll cut this one off here. In the next video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get it up on the ramps. Now that I actually am able to drive it, I can put it up on the ramps. It's going to make it easier. And I'll bleed out the back brakes. I'll get a good bleed on the back and the front brakes. I mean, realistically, I just got fluid through it. I didn't really do a full flush of the whole system. I got to get more brake fluid, things like that. And we'll see if that helps out a little bit. Hopefully that will. The other thing that I'm seeing, I know the idle is set a little bit high at this point, so it's kind of dieseling at the end when I go to shut it off. But I also have a feeling that that there's a vacuum leak somewhere under the hood. So I guess in the next video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have it running. I'm going to try to find where the source of the vacuum leak is up in the front, and I kind of have a feeling it's going to be the lower intake gasket. I've seen some weeping around it, and I have a feeling that's going bad too. And so I'll do that, and then I'll do a full brake bleed on the car, get all that old crappy fluid out of there, and make sure there's nice clean fluid in each one of the lines, and then we'll give it another shot and we'll see how it works. And if all goes well then, and I know that that's okay, and we can find the source of the leak, we'll repair the source of the vacuum leak. If not, then if it's not that, then we got to go to plan Q at this point. But I'd really like to do something with the interior at this point because the carpet keeps getting a little bit damp. I'm guessing that there's some leaves that are up in the cowl area, and it's just getting blocked off and water's coming in instead of going out. So I'd like to get that settled so I'm not getting water in the car anymore. And then we can start working on the interior a little bit. So do me a favor, if you like this, if you want to see more of the Mercury here, subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and drop your comments down below and let me know what you think of the old girl. I hope everybody's staying safe, happy motoring, and I will catch you in the next video.